On today's show, I'm breaking down Corey Seager's first season with the Rangers. What went right, what went wrong, and should the Rangers have gone with somebody else for their big money shortstop free agent signing? All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Today is Wednesday, October 12th, and we are fully into the ALDS and NLDS after a very wild day one of those series. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers and subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment anything below. Today's episode, we're going to get into all about Corey Seager's season, do a little bit of comparisons to some of the other big money free agent shortstops, and why this season kind of felt like the Rangers season, and that it's a little unexpected they fell this far of expectations. But Corey Seager's first season in Texas is done. He was an all-star. He had some career highs in some games and some key categories, and did some things that Rangers shortstops haven't done in quite a long time. He finishes the year with 151 games played, finishes with 24 doubles, 1 triple, 33 home runs, which is a career high, 3 stolen bases, a slash line of 245, 317, 455, that is a 772 OPS, and a 119 OPS plus for the year. Now, some of those numbers seem really great and some of them don't. And he kind of felt like Corey Seager all season long. He looked like Corey Seager at the plate. He looked like a guy that was just a professional hitter that just stings line drives to left, right, and center. A little bit more pull heavy in his power, showed off a lot more home run power than he had in years past, and he is the leader in home runs hit at Globe Life Field. He absolutely dominated at home. He has now 23 regular season home runs at Globe Life Field and 7 in the postseason of 2020. Not with the Rangers, with the Dodgers, but hey, they still count. He still has a lot of home runs at Globe Life Field. I think that is a huge part in why he ended up picking the Texas Rangers as the place where he wanted to go and spend his time, and his 10-year contract where he, he had some real discrepancies with the expected numbers. All looked pretty much the same, typical Corey Seager, but the actual results didn't hold up. But there were some really good results in those actual results. At home, he absolutely dominated. Like I said, it was some pretty stark contrast in what he did at home versus on the road. Where'd we go? All right, at home he had 76 games played, 333 plate appearances, 22 home runs, 13 doubles. His 1 triple came at home. A slash line of 273, 351, 550, a 901 OPS at home versus 645 on the road. Really startling contrast. He did well against lefties and righties. Pretty even splits. Lefties he hit 16 points lower against them on the season. Nothing too crazy or drastic. He had a really great month of June and also month of May and July as well. He just really went on a tear. July was by far his best month of the season. That was when he was pushing to get in the All-Star game. He wasn't initially named an All-Star, which made sense. His overall numbers were just fine at that point, but July was where he really turned it on. In that month, he had 23 games played, 8 home runs, which was the most he had in any month, had an OPS of 1,041. The on base was just 6 points below 400, and he slugged 647. This was just absolute slugging majesty. He was crushing every single ball, and he also had that streak of, was it 4? I think it was 5 straight games with a home run right before the All-Star break to be like, hey, I'm here. I can be your injury replacement. I'm pretty darn good at baseball. I know I didn't look like it for the start of the season, but I am it. And he finished up the year with those 33 home runs. He had at least 4 in every single month. He had 4 in the month of April, 7 in May, where he, the batting average really took a downturn that year, or that month. He only hit 214, but he did have those 7 home runs, and he had 4 in the month of June, 8 in July, 6 in August, and 4 in September/October. Those September and October numbers really took a dip, but in August he had an OPS over 800 at 834. Those 2 months in July and August were the only ones where Corey Seager had an OPS above 764 was the highest he had in any other month, and that was in May with all those 7 home runs. So the home run power came, and it stayed, and it was glorious. The expected numbers, those baseball savant numbers, those absolutely loved him. His barrel rate was in the top, nearly in the top quarter of baseball, 73rd percentile. Expected WOBA, batting average, and slugging, all in the top 4% of baseball. Average exit velo, max exit velo, hard hit percentage, all those top quarter baseball. Those things seem pretty great. Walk rate was down a little bit, but still in the top half of baseball, the 57%. The things that he didn't do well and that aren't in the red were his arm strength, sprint speed, chase rate, and whiff rate. But the strikeout rate, even that, top 15% of baseball. This guy, even though he swings a whole lot and expands the zone a whole lot and is very aggressive early in counts, I'll get more into that later, he's had some success doing that, and he still doesn't strike out at a high rate. So on the outside and watching him before like really diving deep in the numbers, you think, okay, well, this looks like the same Corey Seager. Why is he hitting 245? Why is his on base, 40 points below where it is for his career? Why is the slugging percentage, 40 points below where it is for his career? That an OPS below 800 is just not a thing that Corey Seager does very often in a healthy season. And by the way, that's another huge positive for him and for the team, is keeping him healthy. I talked about it before the season and my general season wrap-up, I believe, on Monday, about how important it was to keep this guy healthy. He's had some random injuries that have kept him off the field. He hadn't played more than 150 games since his first full season in the big leagues back in 2016, and this was the second most games he's played in a season with 151. He has just had random injury after random injury. It was not any of these career debilitating things. It's just like, man, he was just getting super unlucky. And well, he got lucky with the injury luck this year, but with the BABIP luck, really, absolutely did not go his way. Coming up, I'm going to get into where he ranks among these shortstops, among the leaderboard in the American League, and comparing what he did to some of the other big money free agent shortstops. First, this episode is brought to you by Rhone. Dress shirts are often so uncomfortable. They're tight, they never fit right, and you gain a couple pounds and suddenly you can't breathe because you're trying to button a button and tie a tie, and it's just like, all right, there's got to be something better. But the dress shirt was due for a radical reinvention, and Rhone stepped up to the challenge. Rhone's commuter shirt is the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible shirt known to man, and here is why. Mobility is everything. Rhone's comfortable 4-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy what life throws your way, from your commute to work to 18 holes of golf. Wrinkle release technology, wrinkles disappear as you stretch, and wear the shirt that's easy. Odor-free tech with Gold Fusion anti-odor technology. You'll be smelling fresh and clean all day, and on top of that, Rhone is 100% machine washable, so you can ditch the dry cleaner altogether. Isn't that just wonderful? The commuter shirt can get you through your workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to Rhone.com/lockedon and use promo code LOCKEDON to save 20% on your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/lockedon and use code LOCKEDON. It's time to find your corner office comfort. Now, let's get into some of these leaderboards, because Corey Seager was up there. He had the 7th highest WAR among shortstops, according to Fangraphs, at, where'd we go? I believe it was 5.4? 5.4 4.5. Excuse me, got my numbers mixed up. Still, that was ahead of guys like Bo Bichette, Carlos Correa, Nico Horner, and Ha-Seong Kim, who had a really great season. Oh, by the way, also Elvis Andrews finished 12th in WAR according to Fangraphs among shortstops, which I think is just pretty darn cool because he had a fantastic little stint with Chicago. Not his fault they didn't make the playoffs. Not his fault at all. He did his best. Nice to see him thriving, even if it's not with the Texas Rangers. Among American League hitters, he was tied for 5th with his 33 home runs. He led all of Major League shortstop with those 33 home runs and set the record for most homers by a left-handed shortstop in Major League Baseball history. All those really great things. He dominated against fastballs, late and close in games. He had 101 plate appearances where he had an 891 OPS, 7 home runs, 4 doubles, 11 walks, and 14 strikeouts. The guy was clutch. He was bringing it when the Rangers needed it most. And in that series against Baltimore, where they ended up losing all of those games, he was doing some damage. That was in the middle of his streak, if I remember correctly. But it didn't end up mattering. The Rangers kept losing games. But it's not really on the fault of Corey Seager. But he was very inconsistent on the road. That is one place where he just did not do well. The second half wasn't great for him either. He had a 728 OPS after the All-Star break, 11 home runs. In the first half, in 88 games, he had 22 homers and an 804 OPS. Things kind of dragged down towards the end of the season. In the month of September/October, when things kind of went haywire, basically from the point that everyone was fired and everything kind of was decidedly down the tank. When Woody was gone, when John Daniels was fired, things kind of went a little bit south for him. In the month of September and October, he played in 28 games with a 202 average, 254 on base, and 368 slugging percentage. He did have those 4 home runs and 7 doubles, but he still had a 623 OPS, which was his lowest by month for any month of the season. Just not a great month of September and October for him, or really for much of anybody on this Rangers team. Some of the advanced numbers, like I said, they all loved him, but the batting average on balls in play, it feels like something that just made a huge difference for him in this year, and kind of where a lot of the discrepancies lied. He was the most subjected to the most hits lost into the shift this year. The BABIP he had this season was 242. That's just not great. Major league average is about 300. So I think that is where the biggest discrepancies lie. I don't know exactly what all goes into the batting average in balls in play versus like how that performs versus what your actual batting average is. Basically, if you're below average on that, usually it means you're making a lot of weak contact, hitting balls on the ground and what have you. But Corey Seager was stinging balls everywhere, to left, right, and center, over the fences. Like, he was hitting the ball about as hard as he usually did. His walk rate was down a little bit this year. The strikeout rate was down a little bit. Hard hit rate was down just a little bit, not much. Still right around his career average of 44, actually above his career average. His career average is 44.7%. He was 0.8% higher than that. So it's not like he was hitting a bunch of soft, weak grounders right into the shift. Like, he was stinging balls hard, but he just was not finding holes. And I don't know exactly what can fix that. And, at one point this season, when things were going really rough for Corey Seager, I thought, well, should the Rangers have gone with somebody else? There were a lot of options. I mean, the Rangers did get Marcus Semien, who was another one of those, not a shortstop, but it could have been one of those big money middle infielders that the Rangers could have spent money on. And, well, the only guy who really did much better than him, and it still wasn't even that much better, the only one who exceeded him in WAR is Carlos Correa. He had a 5.4 WAR season with 22 homers and an 834 OPS. All those were a little bit higher than Corey Seager, but he only played in 136 games. Again, had the same struggles that he had for his entire career of struggling to stay healthy. He has just one season of 150 games plus in his career. That's Carlos Correa, versus now Corey Seager has 2. So again, he's going to be a free agent this offseason. So if the Rangers wanted to push Josh Young into like left field or something and go throw a bunch of money at Carlos Correa, I'm pretty darn sure Correa is going to opt out. And he's going to be 28 this season, just like Corey Seager was this year. But you could also have gotten Trevor Story. There's some talks about the Rangers being in on him late, some drama with a hitting coach's son that was just all kinds of dramatic. But Trevor Story missed a lot of time this year. He had that 1 week where he was just hitting everything over the fence, and I think he had a couple of grand slams in 1 week, won the American League Player of the Week, and things kind of went in the tank for Boston. This year he played almost entirely at second base, 94 games, 16 homers, a 737 OPS. Not really what you're looking for. He had a 2.5 WAR season while, again, playing at second base. Javier Baez was another option that really scared me, and things were really not great for Javier Baez, who signed with the Tigers. He had a 2.6 BWAR season, 17 homers, a OPS of 671. Just really not much of anywhere close to what Corey Seager was doing. So again, even though it was not the best season for Seager, he still had a really great season compared to all these other guys. And it seems like the Rangers made the right choice. I mean, maybe Carlos Correa in those 133 games would have been a little bit better of a choice, but also he still has that stink of the Houston and the cheating scandal that just really got out of hand that I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. Now, maybe that Elvis sample size of 43 games when he was with Chicago, where he had a 1.7 WAR in less than 50 games, just a absolutely astonishing turnaround, and a 773 OPS there with 9 home runs. I told y'all Elvis had some power in him. But yeah, it seems like the Rangers really made the right move there. There are some questions, though, a little bit of questions about his defense that I kind of want to go into, because it wasn't exactly what I expected going into this season. So we're going to get into that and some overall takeaways from his first season in Texas. But first, this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you are depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor. Are you ready? Delicious, indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to your new favorite. The cookie dough chunk puff have a light, chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course they are covered in 100% chocolate. All the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories. They have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. Run to Built.com, snag yourself a box for you or your family. It'll be the perfect treat, or if you can find a really good hiding place, you might want to hide these away. Like all Built Bars, these cookie dough chunk puffs are covered in 100% real chocolate. That means they are healthy and tasty. What's great about these bars is that they're all made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides a ton of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. You're going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off your order. Use code LOCKEDON15 for 15% off at Built.com. Now, overall, defensively, I think I had some real concerns about Corey Seager coming in. He's a little bit bigger than your average shortstop. He's 6'4", listed at 215 pounds, and the reviews from that I talked to from Dodgers fans and people who have watched Corey Seager a whole lot defensively are like, yeah, it's more of a when, not an if situation he moves off of shortstop. And after watching him this year, I can see what they're talking about. One of the issues that he had was his range. He did not get to a whole lot of balls. We have been spoiled for so many years defensively by having Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and right after Elvis Andrus. Those are two very, very good defensive shortstops. The Rangers have had a good defensive shortstop for basically my entire life. They went from before Elvis, there was Michael Young, who won a Gold Glove there, and before that they had Alex Rodriguez, who, whatever you think of him as a baseball commentator or person, he was a very good baseball player and a very good defender at shortstop. I'm struggling to think of who was there before him, but I was, I think 7 years old when A-Rod was there, so I'm counting it as most of my life. There have been good defensive shortstops, and I think Corey Seager, I would not call him good. I would call him average, passable, fine. You do not sign Corey Seager to a 10-year deal for his glove, except for the fact that he just is a shortstop. And he's a fine one. He's average. He's passable. That's what you need. You don't need anything too fancy when you are theoretically providing 40% better than your average shortstop is providing offensively. This year, he was only 19% better than the average shortstop. But for his career, he's got an OPS plus of 128, which means he is 28% better than the average shortstop in Major League Baseball at some of his better years. Last year, he had a 142. The year before, when he finished top 10 in MVP voting, he had a 150. Both of those, he had an OPS over 900. And that is the kind of bat that the Rangers thought they were getting. And for the most part, they didn't. The home runs were nice, and they were better than he had done before. But the overall offensive numbers, I mean, singles and a bunch of walks aren't necessarily sexy, but they are sexier than a bunch of lineouts and groundouts and flyouts and whatever. And I don't think that this is necessarily going to continue next year. I don't think he's going to start hitting like 400 or 500 or whatever crazy number I think I did when I was trying to do some raw calculations the other day, or maybe a month ago. I don't know how long ago it was, of how a band shift would help. But it will help a lot. Corey Seager is the guy who got robbed the most hits from the shift this year, and so that in and of itself is going to raise that batting average up to, well, I don't know, at least, I'd say at least 15 points, which will raise the on base, and I think those two things will help lead to more confidence, which leads to more hitting, because this guy is a hitting machine. All he cares about is hitting baseballs very hard, very far, to many different fields and many different types of baseballs, and that's what he is, and that's for the most part what he does. And I think he has got to be the most frustrated by this year, as opposed to literally anybody else. This is the lowest OPS he's had in a season since 2018. And if you want to throw that season out because he only played in 26 games, you can most definitely do that. He has 744 OPS that year, 772 this year for reference. So again, the homers came, but the doubles most definitely didn't. He averages 39 doubles per 162 games. This year he only had 24. He has only the one triple. But again, if those doubles are turning to home runs, I'm not going to complain. But overall, I think he can stay on shortstop. There are some numbers that don't look as great for him. He had, I believe, 17 errors, minus 3 defensive run saved, and he was in the 28th percentile for arm strength this year, which is a new thing that StatCast is tracking, and I don't know exactly what all goes into it. They use the average, and I don't know how helpful that is necessarily because, I mean, with outfielders, it makes more sense using the average because for the most part, especially in right field and in center field, you're just kind of uncorking that bad boy. At shortstop, I don't know if they're counting like flips to second for turning double plays, which, by the way, he turned a career high in double plays this year. But one of the things that did love him was the outs above average. Absolutely love Corey Seager's defense at shortstop. He was in the 86th percentile of outs above average. Now, I think that is mostly a result of him making the plays that he can make. He is not going the extra mile. I think a lot of those errors probably should have been charged to Nathaniel Lowe because I remember him getting errors on quite a few of those that were definitely catchable balls that just were bad scoops by the first baseman, but I digress. He makes the plays that are around him. He's not going to go and steal you a whole bunch of hits, through that 6.5 hole between him and Josh Young. Neither of those guys have elite range, but I think it's passable for a shortstop, and you can definitely live with it, and more than live with it, if he is giving you that 900-ish OPS as one of the better hitters in baseball. But this year, those numbers just didn't bear out. I think it's going to be improved next year, but I'm not entirely sure how. The overall numbers just going into, I'm not a hitting coach, so I don't have this in-depth knowledge that I would like to, that I could point to one specific thing like Hunter Pence did on that broadcast at the beginning of the season when Marcus Semien wasn't hitting well. He's like, oh yeah, no, his elbow isn't like tucked in too far, and that's resulting in this and that and the other. And it's like, wow, I wish I was Hunter Pence. That'd be really cool, but I'm not. So I can just go by all the numbers that I can find, what I saw with my eyes. But overall, I'm mostly moderately satisfied with what Corey Seager did this year. The overall numbers, the home runs were fun. Finding your number 2 hitter, finding your 1, 2, and 3 hitter this year for the next foreseeable future is a really, really big thing to do, especially having a 1, 2, and 3 hitter that is good enough to be among the best 1, 2, 3 in baseball. Now, I don't necessarily know that it's going to be, but it is definitely up there as the best, as one of the better ones in their division. I think it stacks up with Houston. I think it's a little bit better than the 1, 2, 3 in Seattle. And, well, everything else besides the Angels in their first 3 hitters is trash, and the Rangers aren't stacking up with Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. But to be fair, really nobody is, and whatever mystery hitter is among those 2 in the top 3 of the Angels order. But still, overall, I think one thing that can really, really help him out is, we talked about it all year, that he doesn't strike out a whole lot. He does have a high whiff rate and a high chase rate because he's going after those first pitches. And he's had success with that in his career. He has a lot of first pitch home runs. He had 10 first pitch home runs this year, but I think if he lays back on that a little bit, he can have a little bit more success, not swinging out of his shoes so often early, expanding the zone so much so early. I think he can have a lot more success because this year, when he swung at the first pitch, and every at-bat, like including the ones where he hit the home runs and everything resulted after that, he had a 678 OPS this year. When he took the first pitch, he had an 878 OPS, literally 200 points higher if he just took that first pitch, which everybody knows that he's swinging out of his shoes on the first pitch, so maybe start taking a few more of those, and then you can get back into being more aggressive on the first pitches and getting more of those first pitch home runs, because that has been a hallmark of his career. It's something he's done for a long time. And this is the first year where he was the highest paid guy, the biggest star on the team. I know Nathaniel Lowe ended up upstaging him offensively, but the casual fan didn't know as much about Nathaniel Lowe. They knew about this guy, Corey Seager, who they paid $300 million to come here, be the face of the franchise, be the shortstop, and hit dingers, which he did hit dingers, and he did play shortstop. So check on the casual fan experience rating of what he did this year. But he's been not the guy. He's been a guy on every Dodger team that he's been on, which this is the first year he's missed the playoffs in his career. One of the worst teams that he's ever been on, probably for a long, long time, even in the minors. He was with a whole bunch of other really great Dodgers prospects, because that's just what the freaking Dodgers do. And the Dodgers didn't miss a single beat when losing this guy who has been one of the better hitters in baseball for the last 5-6 years. They just did not miss a beat and won, 110 games or whatever this year. 111 games this year when losing their homegrown superstar shortstop in his age 28 season. They're like, yeah, fine, whatever, we don't care. And we're still going to be better than they even were last year. Just pisses me off. Whatever. Anyway, this is a long-winded way of saying I was disappointed in what could have been for Corey Seager, confused by what happened. This is the most confusing season by, I think, any Rangers position player in a very, very long time. There were signs there, like there were with Marcus Semien. He didn't have as low a lows as Semien, but he didn't have quite as high of highs. Actually, no, that's a lie. He did have his high highs, even higher. Made an all-star team, but still, weird season for Corey Seager. I'm excited of what's going to happen next year. He is still young. This was his age 28 season. He is going to be 29 next year. Still got a lot of years left in his prime. Doesn't turn 29 until April 27th, which, oh my gosh, I'm just now realizing makes him more than a month younger than me. Whatever. It's not about me. It's about Corey Seager, who had a weird season and he's already won a World Series MVP, 2 Silver Sluggers. I don't think he's going to win one this year. I'm pretty sure that's going to go to Carlos Correa, unless they just award it based on home runs alone, in which case he would win the Silver Slugger. Don't see it happening. But signs of improvement. Again, a huge jump from what the Rangers had last year. The difference between Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and Corey Seager. I don't think there are 2 more different shortstops in Major League Baseball. IKF is all defense and grit and was not highly touted at all. Corey Seager has been extremely highly touted since the day he was drafted and has hit well and been fine defensively for his entire career. But still, one of the better seasons by a Rangers shortstop since I'd say 2017 Elvis, and that was a really nice year. But having a superstar at shortstop for the foreseeable future, hopefully he's going to have some better seasons, and the band shift will do wonders for him in the future, specifically next year, and maybe that powers the Rangers to the playoffs. I don't know, but I am very much looking forward to seeing what Corey Seager can do in the next 9 seasons that he is under contract with the Rangers. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Rangers. For your next listen, check out Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, and gives you his unique perspective on the Major Leagues past and present, including all that's going on with the Major League Baseball playoffs, which maybe next year he'll be talking about Corey Seager and the Rangers breaking that playoff drought. His podcast is free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. That'll do it for this show, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.